Ladies and gentlemen, urgent update. The aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln and its entire group of 10 warships, 2 supply vessels, and 2 submarines have disappeared from radar. At the moment when Trump finished his meeting with NATO leadership in Davos, the Lincoln was on all radars. But naturally, when such a group is moving, everyone is watching it, and suddenly it disappeared. At that moment, the squadron was it was in the Indian Ocean approaching the Persian Gulf. That is, somewhere there, about 8 to 12 hours away from Iranian territorial waters, meaning from a strike position. Where is the aircraft carrier? Where are the other ships? Are they together? Where are the submarines? But most importantly, why did they go dark? As reported by global media, what is happening? What is being prepared? At the same time, it became known that the request to postpone the strike on Iran as he planned, as I understand it a few days ago, came simultaneously from Israel, Saudi Arabia, and the Emirates. The forces gathered are not enough to completely paralyze Iran's ability to strike the oil fields of, let's say, Sunni states and the residential areas of Tel Aviv and other coastal cities. That's why Trump said, all right, we're not moving forward for now.
And we have breaking news. The United States Navy aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln, which was quickly heading toward Iran, suddenly vanished from all tracking systems. The location of this aircraft carrier, which is covertly moving into position for potential strikes on Iran, is now completely unknown. I repeat, it has completely disappeared. In addition to this, we have fighter jets in the air and helicopters patrolling the Iranian border. A lot is happening, so we'll explain what happened, what we know, what's going on, and more.
Tensions with Iran have reached a boiling point, and Iranian authorities have started shooting demonstrators point blank. This has become too much, even for those Western democracies that actually support Iran, whether openly or secretly. Well, it seems they've all come to the conclusion that regime change is necessary.
President Trump responded by sending the Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group from Asia to the Middle East. That's the information we have right now. Message from Fatox Network mentioning Yan. The United States ship Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group turned off its nuclear power system overnight, meaning its tracking capabilities, so it completely disappeared from the radar. It is currently hiding, moving secretly into a strike position, so its location remains unknown.
It's possible that the fleet is now positioned along the coast of Iran to strike from all sides at once, but it's also possible that the ships have turned and gone in a completely different direction. We don't know anything, otherwise it's hard to explain why they suddenly went into the so-called shadow mode. It's unclear how it's possible to prevent China and Russia, who have satellites in orbit, from detecting the ships. But if they can detect the ships, then why go into shadow mode? What is it called? The operations leaders decided they wouldn't be found. Well, maybe the Americans have something that makes it impossible to see the ships. Can you even imagine that? Well, it's totally possible, yeah. But actually, when 8 helicopters were approaching Venezuela, they weren't seen either, but we all decided that it must have been some kind of arrangement with the Venezuelan military. How could you arrange things with Russia and China so they wouldn't notice you or act, given that if they do, they'll instantly alert Iran? So going into the shadows, into the darkness, is only possible if you believe that China and Russia won't see you.
So what you see here on the screen, what I'm showing you now, is the last known location of the aircraft carrier Strike Group and the aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln. Here, this point. That's when they turned off their tracking system. So if we zoom out, you can see it right there. Well, let me zoom in again here. So this was near Malaysia right here, and there's the Andaman Sea to the north. So that was the last known location. The radar was turned off, its tracking wasn't working for about 9 hours, so it flew for 9 hours in complete darkness, totally unnoticed, and the world didn't know where it was. It's tactically smart, strategically smart, when we move a carrier strike group into position, like when we moved a carrier group to Venezuela. You don't want to let the world know where you are, which means
Nobody knows. What about satellites? Because there really is something that hides United States Navy ships from prying eyes.
this is from United States Central Command. It says that a United States F-15 Strike Eagle from the 494th Expeditionary Fighter Squadron is landing at a base in the Middle East. The F-15 boosts combat readiness and supports regional security and stability. So right now, as you know, sorry for this little equipment malfunction. So, as of January 20th, when I'm recording this, the United States is deploying more fighter jets. Why the F-15? Why are we announcing that it's there? Whereas if we were deploying the F-15 or F-15, we'd be much quieter about it. We're signaling to the world that we're going to drop very, very big bombs. Why am I saying this? The F-15 can carry a much larger payload than the F-15. It's not designed for air combat, but to drop warheads on the enemy's heads. That's its capability. Yes, it's not invisible, but it can unleash an incredible amount of power with its munitions. It can carry, I believe, over 20,000 pounds of bombs at once, which is much, much more than the F-15. The capabilities of the F-15 are classified. I think that's why we don't know this, but now we're deploying more fighters to the region, which we've already talked about earlier, and then I'll show it on the screen. This is also as of January 20th, although there are more C-17 flights to the Middle East at night, some through the United Kingdom Air Force Base Lakenheath, returning to Ramstein as additional support flights for the United States president. So right now, the Middle East is buzzing with American planes delivering supplies. Again, we don't know what those supplies are. We can reasonably assume that they are dropping off air defense systems.
The goal is to bomb Iran in such a way that they can't respond with a massive retaliation. At least not towards Israel, not towards the Gulf countries, and not towards the United States military bases in that region. It has to be a strike of such magnitude that it would be difficult or impossible to recover from it. What else does this tell me? That the United States, or maybe the Iranian crown prince, they reached an agreement with the Iranian army's leadership, which, if all this happens, will take to the streets of major cities, especially Tehran, and occupy all the key points there. Command posts, strongholds, the Revolutionary Guards Corps, well, basically the Iranian Gestapo, Cheka Gestapo, KGB. By the way, that's pretty much what Zhukov did back in the day with Khrushchev and the other conspirators, all of whom were terrified of Beria. They brought 2 divisions into Moscow, which followed Zhukov to neutralize the People's Commissariat for Internal Affairs. But there were no American planes that, so to speak, flew in, nor any American bombs or missiles that could have destroyed the strongholds of the internal troops and supporters of the regime.
So, right here, very good. So I'll bring this up on the screen. This was also as of the morning of January 20th in the United States. You can see Black Hawk helicopters right here, along with massive military aircraft, American military aircraft, right on the border with Iran. This week, 3 more F-35 fighter jets were delivered to Israel, so now the Israel Defense Forces has a total of 48 stealth aircraft, 48 F-35s. Why is this important? When the 12-day war began, the foundation of Israel's strike capability against Iran was the F-35. It allowed them to penetrate deep into Iranian airspace, strike their air defenses, hit their missile installations, and unleash chaos on the Iranian army, the IRGC, and the Ayatollah's defenses. So now they're getting more F-35 fighters in anticipation of a possible second wave of strikes.
The Israeli Air Force has been reinforced, and I'm sure their missile stockpiles have been replenished.
So right now, Iran is threatening to burn everything to the ground. In the event of a United States attack, they say they'll set the Middle East on fire. That's what they're threatening. Unfortunately for them, if we strike first with overwhelming military force, they won't have many resources left to deliver the blow they're warning about, the blow they're threatening. So I'll take this off the screen. As of January 20th, when this video is being recorded, An aircraft carrier has vanished from radar and moved into a strike position near Iran. Its exact location is unknown, which is likely for the best. These strikes are inevitable. We are urgently deploying planes, fighters, and F-15 transport aircraft. The Israelis are reinforcing their F-35. The Israelis are moving air defense systems, and we are urgently deploying air defense systems to the region. All signs point to imminent action. I repeat, all signs point to a bombing. Don't pay attention to what they say about the Middle East. Never do that. Pay attention to troop movements. We're moving aircraft carriers, warships, planes, and while we're doing this, Iran is threatening to burn the entire region to the ground. So obviously, we're climbing the escalation ladder towards something big. What it will look like, I don't know, but I think it's fair to say that the Ayatollah should be shaking with fear and be very, very scared. I definitely would be if I were in his place. He has been a problem for a long time, and the Islamic regime has caused issues for nearly 50 years. Eventually, you have to draw the line. You need to say there's a line you won't cross.
It seems that the United States, Israel, and possibly NATO and the Sunni countries are ready for a massive strike against Iran to defend against Iran's attempts to retaliate. But most importantly, it seems that there is a force in Iran that, after our strike, will be able to seize the key command and communication centers of the Iranian leadership and the Revolutionary Guard Corps, and return Iran to a world where there are significantly less aggressive countries, which, together with the United States, will build a new world order with less violence and less danger of blowing up the planet. A danger that exists for us today, every hour. Until next time, and as soon as any important and interesting news appears, I will report it immediately.